All right, let's go ahead and get started. How you doing today, William? Well, can you hear me all right?
I sure can.
Oh, perfect. All right, good. Okay, well, today we are going to be doing a kind of a thought exercise, researching some uh, different business regulations and how they affect us. And then I've also got a few different videos we're going to watch and we're going to discuss that have to do with some people who have become successful designers and some of the things that they did in order to be successful in their business. Um, so let's start off. Actually, I'm also, as I say here, I got a tip for watching the class videos I wanted to show you that I've had some students say that they did not know about and we're happy to know about. Let's start there. I'm going to go ahead and just go into our class here. So, we've got a lot of videos to watch, and depending on you, sometimes the speed at which the videos happen is perfect. Sometimes you'd like them to be a little bit faster. You can listen a little faster. Sometimes you'd like it to slow down a little bit so you can hear it coming at you a little slower. And I just wanted to show you that you've got that option. If you click on the link itself for any of our videos, it's going to take you to YouTube where the videos are. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Can you pause that? And when you're on this page, if you click the settings button right there, you've actually got a speed option. So normal is going to be just the way that it actually was recorded, but you can bump it down a little bit if you want to slow it down. You can bump it up a little bit if you want to speed it up. For example, I tend to like to watch videos where I'm, like educational videos at about a 1.25 or 1.5 just because I'm able to follow it at that speed just fine, and I get through it a little quicker. So um, that's there for our class videos. It's also on lynda.com. If you're watching videos on lynda.com, you can click and there's a speed option there, and you can choose what speed works best for you and get the most out of the videos that way. All right. Okay. So I want to start off. We're going to do a little bit of research to start, William. I'm going to take 15 minutes and I want you to just get on Google and try to find three, or just brainstorm if you know of any, three things that have to do with business regulations that are going to affect you for good or bad as a web designer. So it could be something positive to your business, or they could be something negative to your business. And I've got a few of them listed under that brown square there. So I'll move that when we come back and talk about those. So just take 50 minutes, and I'll be sitting here. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and we'll come back in 15 and talk about them. All right.
What I'm kind of I there's that's kind of a broad range. Is there any specific things you want? You know what I mean?
Well, really, I mean, anything. We're going to come up with specific things, but basically, what sort of laws or rules are there or aren't there? And what sort of things do you wish there were laws or rules for in your industry, or what sort of things are there laws or rules for your industry that are going to help you as a business person who's starting your own web design business, or that are going to make things harder for you as you're starting your own web design business? Does that make sense? I'll give you one. I'll give you one of them just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, like copyright laws, for example. Uh,
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, take a few minutes to do some research on that, and then we come back. We'll talk about them, and I'll talk about some of the ones that I have here as well. All right. I'm just gonna set a timer here to keep track of that. All right, so we'll come back when that's down to 0. All right. So what'd you come up with, William?
Holy crap, I didn't realize there was so much stuff. I also didn't realize that basically web designers as a business is self-regulated.
Mm-hmm. That's actually one of the things that I have listed here. I wrote that up for graphic designers, but the same thing. So let's say graphic and web designers, and that is that there's no outside regulation that is necessary to prove that you are actually a professional designer, which means that anyone can come in and say, I'm a web designer, and they can, you know, the problem is that you've got people who don't really have the skills that a professionally trained web designer has, but their clients don't necessarily know that, since they're not trained in it either. And so you've got people that are selling a subpar product, and they can undercut your prices, and that can hurt all of us. Is the fact that you don't anyone can say they're a web designer, and as long as they can convince clients that they are and offer them a cheap price, then that hurts everyone that really is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what else did you come up with?
Something else I didn't know is, I mean, my site is going to have one as soon as I had one, but I'm revamping it in WordPress. So I still have to put mine in there. But you are almost every website, to like 99.9% of websites are required to have a privacy policy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's something that you definitely got to have in there. And again, if you're not educated in those things, then you put together a site for a client, then they're not compliant because of that, and then that's on you, huh?
Yeah, it can definitely come back on you,
Yeah.
because the company can just say, well, he designed it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's basically all they have to say is he designed it. He should know.
Exactly. Well, and if word of mouth gets out that you did that, then that hurts your business as well. And then, there's, oh, don't hire that guy. He screwed up, and we ended up in trouble because of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, another thing I found out is if you are selling something on a website that you design, it needs terms and conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's right. And well, I don't go back and forth. I'll tell you one of the ones that I've got. I have copyright down, and in that one we kind of get overall we're helped by it, but then there's also some makes things harder too, because we have to be really careful that we have the rights to use any different elements that we're using on the site, right? Any imagery, stuff like that. We got to be really careful that we've gotten the correct rights in order to use it. But then on the flip side, it protects us from people taking our work too.
Well, and one thing a lot of people don't consider there is if you are developing a website that is allowing people to upload their own content,
Mm-hmm.
you have problems with user-generated content, and is their content, or are they using something that is copyrighted? And
Mm-hmm.
if it is on the website that you put together, it can come back on you.
That reminds me, I don't know if you heard about this. There's a Chinese cell phone company called Huawei, I think that's how to pronounce it. And they did a contest where people were supposed to submit the best photos that they took using their camera phone, the Huawei camera phone.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that won is the best photo, and they promoted it, put out put it in marketing materials. I'll look at this picture, that was taken with their camera phone. And it turned out the guy who submitted it had stolen it off of Instagram, and the guy who took it with a Canon SLR professional camera.
Ouch.
Yeah. A huge embarrassment to Huey and legal issues and all sorts of problems from that.
Yeah, one of the things of doing a contest like that is actually being able to prove that it was taken on your phone.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Or on the phone they're talking, that they're talking about.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Any other ones?
Yes. It is becoming increasing. I can't talk today. Increasingly, a requirement to be ADA
Compliant.
compliant. There we go. Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
One of them days. And yeah. And I didn't realize that it was getting to that point where it's actually becoming law.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's for a long time, it's been wise because you want, the more ADA compliant you are, the more accessible your site is to everyone. But yeah, it's becoming more and more backed up by the laws for sure.
Yeah, and I read in one place that if you're designing a website for a company and they have more than 15 employees, it's a law that it is ADA compliant.
Oh yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Oh, that's new. Nice.
And that's in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and some of these are going to be based on where you're located. Like, so on my list there, I've got small business licensing. And like I was saying on Tuesday, in my area, you don't need a small business license if it's just you operating as a sole proprietorship. But in some places you do. Or zoning. In my neighborhood, anytime one of my neighbors decides to start a business in their home, I get a letter from the city, and I have to, if I have a problem with that, I can go and say, no, I don't want that in my neighborhood. And some areas have even more strict zoning where they just say this area is, you can have a business in this area, you can't. And it's just going to depend on your area, those local legislations.
Yeah, I when I first started freelancing for graphic design, I talked to I'm in Flushing Township, and I talked to the township clerk, and they basically told me it is here. It's based on traffic. If you're going to start having traffic coming to your house for your business, then you have to start going through the process of contacting neighbors and asking them if they're going to have problems with it. And
Gotcha.
but like me, I really don't have anybody come here generally. If they do, it's not like I have any kind of traffic. It's just if somebody does come, it might be one person or one car, maybe two people a day. If it's a super busy day, which usually it isn't that busy, but
yeah.
but so they said, we're not going to worry about that. But
that's good.
Yeah, so they basic more on traffic, which will disrupt the neighborhood.
Yeah,
is basically what they're going with.
Their big concern. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Well, and another one I have down here that we need thinking about is marketing regulations, because quite often when you're building a website for someone, it's they're making sales claims on that website, and there are laws that strictly control like truth in advertising.
Oh yeah.
So you have to be careful about that too, making sure that you're compliant with different marketing regulations if you're doing marketing through the website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a whole slew of stuff once you start getting into e-commerce and stuff like that you really have to start watching.
Yeah. So yeah, the main reason I do this, I just want to kind of, everyone watching the recording and for you just kind of to be thinking about, there is a lot to research and a lot to learn to make sure that you are again, professional. I mean, that's the difference between a professional designer and someone who's just, figured out how to use Dreamweaver and is going out there saying I can make websites. Is really having a thorough understanding of the design aspects of it, the technology aspects of it, and the business, the regulation, the actual business world in which web design exists in.
Yeah.
All right. I'll pop that back for next time. Okay. Well, cool. Well, thank you for that. So now what I want to do, we're going to watch a video, watch a couple of videos. We're going to watch one to start off with that is a woman talking about how she became a freelancer contract designer. And we're going to talk about the difference between freelance and contract. But what I want you to do is, while we're watching these, just make a note of some, whatever stood out the most to you in what each one of them said. And we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to point out a few things as well. All right. I'm going to pull this over. I'm going to start with this one here, and I'm just going to go ahead and I have to unshare my screen and reshare it because I forgot to do the audio correctly so you guys hear.
Well, that won't help if we can't hear it,
That is true. All right, so we'll watch this one again. Make a note of whatever in here stands out to you the most and why, and then and we'll go over it when it's done. Okay.
What's up, guys? So today I have a kind of a different video. I mentioned on my vlog channel that I would do a quick video regarding graphic design, how to get into freelancing and contracting, all that kind of stuff. I don't want this to be a long drawn out video, so I have a couple of points that I want to make. I'm going to go through it super quickly, so hold on to your horses. Here we go. I have a BA in studio art with a concentration in graphic design. Straight out of college, I worked at Puma. I was a graphic designer for the North American everything. There was like one designer and one manager, so yeah, I did everything for North America anyway. And I worked at EMC, which is a pretty large data storage company, and that was awesome. A little boring because it was data storage, but it's okay. And after that, I worked at one of my favorite places that I ever worked, which was the TJX Corporation, which basically oversees all of TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and Marshall stores. So that was an awesome job. I do mostly print design. I can do a little bit for web, but I don't do HTML or any of that. That's not where I'm at. I do like a little bit of graphics for web pages. I'm not currently active in graphic design. Now I do video production, which is so much fun here on YouTube, and I love it. This is what I love to do. It's kind of a transition period for me. It was a great field to be in, and I would go back in a heartbeat if I had to, and I would enjoy it. If you want to just get a job, period, is while you're in school, you need to really be friends with the professors. I'm not talking brown nose, I'm not talking sucking up, none of that stuff. I'm just talking like genuine, get to know your professors and let them get to know you, because professors are your connection to the outside world. They have real world experience. They've worked at actual studios or companies, and they have contacts, they know people. So if any time there is a job opening, your professor could let you know. Professors don't always teach full-time, so a lot of times, especially art professors, they have their studios on the side, or they're doing their own thing on the side, and then they go and teach us a couple days out of the week. You really want to make sure that you're keeping in good connection with your professors, and really making sure that if there is any opportunity coming up, that you're the first one that comes to their mind. My first job at Puma I actually got through my art professor. I actually found out about the opening through her. She told me about it, she told me to apply, I applied, and I got the internship. That ultimately led to a job at Puma. All the jobs that I've had in my graphic design career have been through networking. None of my jobs I got through any like online postings or applying online through anything, or just like cold calls or whatever, I don't even know. They were all through networking. So networking is huge. If you want to get a job, you need to talk to people. And you don't have to go to networking events or anything like that. Just talk to people in your daily life, because those are going to be the lasting impressions. Those are people who are going to give you that hookup to really get you in, because you know there's tons of people online who are applying, and honestly it's like trying to shoot monkeys in a barrel. Is that the saying? I don't even know how it goes. Trying to shoot things out of You know what I'm trying to say. It's just a pain in the butt and it'll get you nowhere. There was a time when I was trying to apply online and it was ridiculous. And then luckily I ran into this woman who was just an angel and she hooked me up with TJ Maxx. So make sure that you're always talking to people. If somebody asks, hey, what are you doing? Don't try and like act cool or act like you're bigger than you are and be like, oh man, you know, I'm just doing my thing. Like, no, be like, I'm looking for work. I'm a graphic designer and I'm looking for work. If you know of anything, let me know. Or let them know what you do and let them know that you're actually looking for work, because everybody knows somebody who knows somebody. And a lot of times people want to help. So they're not going to know that you need help or that you're looking for work if you don't tell them. So always let people know where you are, like what you're looking for, because everybody knows somebody. My second job was through a close friend of mine from high school. You know, you have friends from high school who are business majors or whatever, and they're working in these large corporations. These corporations have small marketing departments which have graphic design departments in it. So don't think that because your friend is a business major, he can't help you out, because I had a friend who was a business major and he helped me out. He got me a job in the marketing department in the graphic design section of the marketing department of EMC, and it was awesome. Talk to your friends, any of your friends, see if their marketing department is hiring. It's an awesome way to get in, because if you have a close friend that can vouch for you and say, yeah, this is my buddy, he does great work or whatever, that's gonna get you ahead of the other people who are applying. To be quite honest, if you're a graphic designer and you're looking for a job, you're probably gonna start out as a contractor. That's just the way it is. You're probably gonna end up being a contractor anyway. That's something that you're gonna do very, very slowly. You're not gonna all of a sudden, like, you know, say, oh, I'm gonna start my business, and then you have 10 clients come in. That's never gonna happen. It's something that you'll slowly get into on the side of what you're currently doing. A lot of times you'll have friends who start their own businesses and they'll come to you wanting business cards, or they'll want some sort of collateral they'll need help with. And that's a great way to get clients, your friends. Another way to get more clients, where you want to go to, is those small local businesses that don't have big budgets. They don't have a lot of advertising money. So they're always going to be looking to save money somewhere. So you just waltz your little bum in there and be like, hey, well, not like that. Hi, I'm a graphic designer. I don't know if you currently have a graphic designer, but I would love for you to take a look at my work. Give them your business card. Your business card should have an online portfolio. You always want to put your work online. Instagram, you know, Facebook, website, all that. Do it up. Give them your business card and ask them to look at it. Let them know that if they like what they see on your online portfolio, that you will beat their current designer's rate by like 10% or whatever you're willing to do. That will be intriguing for them. But yeah, that's how you get started with freelancing. Go directly to the small businesses and let them know that you're looking for work. You're gonna build it up slowly. So when you're freelancing, you don't wanna not be doing anything else. Freelancing is something that you do on the side until you have enough loyal clients to actually make it your main business. So like I said, I'm not currently active in graphic design except for my own personal stuff, but I will recommend a YouTuber that I really love. She is amazing. Her name is Karen Cavett. I'll put the link to her channel in the description box below, but I really respect her as a designer. I've been watching her for years, and she does current videos on graphic design. So if you're currently a designer and you're looking for somebody who does current videos and information on graphic design, she will be that girl for you. If you go to her channel and subscribe, let her know that Napsha85 sent you, because I've never really talked to her before. I've been subscribed to her for a long time. I've never really said hi. So tell her I said hi. But yeah, she's a really great YouTuber for graphic design. She's actually worked with YouTube, and she does a lot of design for current YouTubers here on YouTube. How many times did I say YouTube in one sentence? Jesus, that's pretty much it. I hope that was informative. Basically, in a nutshell, network. Period. Case in point, closed. Network. From the time you're in college, you need to be networking with your professors. You get out of college, network with your friends. They work in companies. Companies have marketing departments. Marketing departments need graphic designers. Talk to your friends. They will get you a job. Trust me, you don't need to just talk to artistic people. Talk to everybody. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody works somewhere and knows what's needed. That's it. There's a lot of people out there who are doing graphic design. There's a lot of people out there who want to do graphic design. The only thing that's going to differentiate you from somebody else is who you know. Oh, and your portfolio has to look good. Duh. I hope this helps. And yeah, I'll talk to you in the next video. It'll be an actual fashion.
All right. So, William, what stood out to you the most in that?
Oh, I have to stop laughing first. Oh my. Oh, one thing that she mentioned that kind of caught my attention in a bad way, or basically I disagreed with her. She said she was a graphic designer, but she doesn't do websites.
Well, she
Or
said she does very, very little web stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and anymore it's becoming the same thing.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot of crossover for sure. And there still are people who specialize in, magazine layout and stuff like that. But you're definitely going to have more work if you're doing both for sure.
Because I mean, I have seen many help wanted ads for graphic designers
Mm-hmm.
that also say you need to know HTML and CSS.
Oh yeah, it's definitely most commonly they want both for sure.
Especially with jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it freelance, the crossover isn't as much because they can always go to somebody else that does web design. But why would you want them to go to somebody else?
Yeah, No, I agree. And one thing I want to point out, in that video, she talks about the fact that she has never gotten work through online, like applying online. She's never gotten work through network groups. And we're going to watch, I don't think today, I think it's the later week, we're going to watch 2 other videos. And you're going to hear one guy talking about how, like, oh my gosh, he just gets so much work through online stuff, and that's where he gets everything. And another guy's like, oh, I get so much work through network groups. And so what I want you to keep in mind there's not one path that works for everyone. There's lots of different means, and the way you're going to have the most success building your business is to explore them all and try to find different means to do it. But with her, she talks a lot. The networking thing is what I wanted to point out. When she talks about just talking to everyone, and like I can tell you from personal experience that is so true. I have gotten so many clients having conversations with people in situations where I had no expectation of getting a client. They were just talking to me. They wanted, and I would let them know what I would do, what I did, and I'd let them know I do freelance, and I'd just toss out there, if you know anyone that's looking for it, let me know. And sometimes it's them, sometimes it's a friend of theirs, sometimes it's someone in their family that's starting a business or that needs to redesign their logo. I've done menus that way. I had one, the most stereotypical of any of them. Is I was learning to play golf a couple of years ago. I'd never played growing up or anything, and my brother plays, and so he was taking me out to teach me. And it was me and my brother and my brother-in-law, and we went to a golf course, and they put a 4th person that into our group because he was alone. So we were going out as a foursome, and this other person, is just the general chatting. So what do you do? What do you do? And he was an architect who owned his own architecture firm. And he was getting ready to retire, and he was passing that firm down to a younger partner of his. But that younger partner had decided that she wanted to rebrand the entire firm in order, so that there'd be kind of a clean break there. And he ended up, could you come talk to us? And I ended up doing all their branding for them. All the jokes about doing business on the golf course, and it's not a joke. You really can't.
No, it is not. I actually got a client in the clubhouse.
Oh yeah.
I played. Let me see. I played 9 holes, and the way our golf course is set up here in Flushing is the first 9 holes go out and come back to the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second 9 holes go out a different direction away from the clubhouse and then come back to the clubhouse, so that you can play 9 holes in either one, or you can play all 18.
Yeah.
And I played 9 holes, came back, and I was getting a drink. And it's kind of funny because my wallet was a mess. And I had 2 business cards stuck in with my money. Well, I pulled them out and laid them aside so I could count the money out. And there was a guy sitting there, and it's kind of funny because it was also an architectural firm, like you had mentioned, and he just happened to look over and he's like, "Oh wow, these business cards look nice." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," and he said, "So you're a graphic designer?" I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Do you do?" Well, he called it a crossover between architecture and graphic design. And I said, well, you know, the whole conversation, to make it short, the whole conversation went, you know, and I ended up with the client, because architects nowadays, they're not really the architects, but the customers want something that they can see.
Yeah.
And he was not really an older architect, but he didn't get into the 3D end of it.
Yeah.
And I had some training in CAD. And so I've done some houses for him where I've taken his plans on the computer, switched them over to 3D, and visualized it for his customers. And so
that's awesome. Yeah, it really, you know, what you were saying, that's something she mentioned too, the handing of the business card. You know, if you design your website to look amazing and you send a client to your website, a potential client, hey, you know, check out my website there, and if you can impress them with your site, then it's like, oh wow, can you do something like that for me, you know? Really getting that, letting people see what you're capable of through what you've done for your own company is huge.
Yeah, and there's more than one way you can do that too, because my website is closer to minimal, but I'm gonna have links from in my portfolio. I'm gonna have links to other websites that I've done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I can show more of a range, you know, off of, you know, more than just my site. But yeah.
No, that's great.
There's no such thing as a perfect writer. This is why.
Oops.
I want to get that video back up because I want to pause it on one part and go over.
Another thing I've noticed, I noticed that she mentioned is doing a lot of local, and it combines in with the networking. I go to a business networking setup here in Flushing by the Flushing Chamber of Commerce. And I have got quite a bit of business through that too, just talking to people, and you would be surprised how little people know about graphic design, even as businesses. And a lot of them really don't know how to find a graphic designer.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that I think a lot of people that are getting started in this industry they're nervous to discuss it because they worry that they're, in the beginning anyway, they worry that they're going to come across as new or inexperienced, or where in reality, you know, to a lot of people who aren't in this industry, it's a fascinating industry and they know nothing about it, and they are just interested to talk to somebody who does.
And a business owner was in that spot. He knows how it is to be new in something. You know your stuff, but you're still new.
Yep, exactly.
Because he started that business, so he was there.
Yep.
Basically, you know, he knows the technicalities of putting your foot into something new.
Exactly. Yeah, it's I guess the takeaway that I want, you know, people watching the video to have is just talk, when you are a business owner, you're your marketing, and don't feel like you need to be on the clock to be doing that marketing. Talk to people in any situation. You don't have to be trying to sell them all the time. Just talk to them. Talk to them about what you do. Talk to them about your aspirations, other clients you've worked for, and you just never know when you are going to come across the right people that are looking for exactly what you have to offer, and just would have never known that you were even offering it if you hadn't brought it up, in that situation. So, all right, so one thing before we leave this video, I wanted to just talk about this part right here with the contractors versus freelance. And this is something a lot of people think that these are interchangeable terms, but they're not. So here she has good definitions here. So a contractor says, contractor has a specified contract outlining the exact time frame you'll begin and end working with the company. So contracts are usually renewed, but save the company from having to give you benefits. So basically someone says, we are going to employ, we want you to be working for us on this project for the next 3 months. And you're basically working, you're working for them. You're working, a lot of times you're going into their office, or sometimes you're working from home, but you're working for them. You're in all the sense of the terms that we think of it, you're their employee, but they don't give you benefits as an employee. It's kind of a safety thing on their end, because they know this work won't continue forever, so they do it in shorter terms. Make sure you know your rights in that situation. Sometimes people, when they hire you as a contractor, will demand more of you than they really should. And so you want to be setting the terms. Oh, whoops, let me do that. You want to be setting the terms right from the beginning of what the expectations are, whether you're going to work in your, in your office or theirs, whether, how many, what availability they expect you to have. Do they think you're going to be just available 9 to 5 for anything they need, or do they know that this is going to be on your terms? And depending on their needs, you can ask for more money for those contracts, but you definitely want to get those things worked out ahead of time.
Yeah, I look at it this way. A contractor is basically, you are contracting yourself to them for a specific amount of time to do basically whatever they want you to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Where a freelancer is, there is no specific time. It's just, okay, we want you to do, we want you to design this, a website, an advertisement campaign, something,
Yeah, that's exactly. A freelancer that says they're on call. They come to you for a project, not for an amount of time. And they generally, it's generally one project at a time. That project may have multiple components, but the same sort of thing that you've got. You're on your own terms, so you don't have the benefits or things like that, but you've got a little more flexibility in your schedule there. But the downside here is it says freelancing is more unstable than contracting because there isn't a guaranteed time frame. So, if you get a contract job, you've got income coming in for this amount of time, where if you do a freelance work, you have this much income coming in from this project, but once that project's done, you need to find another one.
Yeah, contractor, a lot of the contractor jobs I've seen, you are paid an hourly salary.
Yeah,
hourly, you're either paid hourly or weekly, to where a freelancer, you're paid for the whole job.
Yep, exactly.
A lot of times that's so much up front and the rest when you're done.
And because of that, a contractor tends to make a little more than someone who's a permanent employee, because of the less stability and because they don't pay benefits. But a freelancer tends to make even more per project than a contractor does because of that. It's so short term. But it says here that, that in both situations, and we're going to talk a lot more about this in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be dealing with taxes, but you do pay your own taxes, and you do your own health insurance. So you need to have plan this out ahead of time to make sure that you're still making a profit after those things are considered. And we're going to actually be doing doing that in future classes. But yeah, so just make sure, just to be clear on those definitions. So all right, well, let's take a break now. Then let's do a 15-minute break. I'm going to set a timer here, and again, go stretch your legs, have a smoke if you want, and I will see you back here in 15.
That'll work.
All right, let's get going. So the next one we're gonna watch is this guy here, and again, he's got a specific point that I'm gonna talk about after, but also just make a note of anything that stands out to you the most when he's talking, and we'll talk about it when it's done. Okay, yeah, definitely. We'll definitely take some time for that. We'll look at those at the end. That sounds great. I'm glad you brought it.
Here I am in my home office where I operate my freelance graphic design business. You might be wondering, how do I get there? How can I work from home and do something that I enjoy? Well, there's a lot of risks and opportunities that I took to get to where I am today. And that's what I want to share with you, how I became a freelance graphic designer. About 8 years ago, in my junior year of high school, I had the opportunity to attend a technical career center for interactive media. This is when I really started to find my passion for design. I had done it for fun, just at home, on my own, working on my own stuff. But now I could do it half of the time I was in school. And it was in this career center where I had the opportunity to work with some clients pro bono, doing posters, websites, logos, and that sort of stuff. And that's when it clicked for me, that I could do this for a living and make money. Jump ahead, after graduating high school, I attended a 2-year college for the same thing, interactive media and business, and this is when I really started to experiment with the idea of freelancing. But of course, while in school, I also had to get a part-time job. I worked in the print department of an office supply store. So I went these 2 years of in college experimenting with freelancing, aside from the part-time job, and just doing my schoolwork. So 2 years went by, I graduated college, there I was standing behind a Xerox printer, slaving over the start button while some customers over there shopping for a stapler. And what bothered me the most was that I was spending most of my days at my part-time job, and there's client work piling up at home, waiting for me. And I could be spending my time effectively growing something and doing something that I actually enjoyed. So I did it. I put in my 2 weeks and I quit my part-time job. There was never going to be a better opportunity for me to take such a risk. I still lived with my parents, so my expenses were low, and I knew that if I wanted to make this happen, now was the time. So I started freelancing full-time. About a year passed and not much happened. I wasn't making a livable income, so I really needed to figure out how do I need to make this work, or else I needed to find another job. So I took a step back and I rebranded everything. I figured out a new business model, what I should focus on. I redesigned my website, redesigned my logo, but then I started putting my blog to use. I started posting design tutorials about things I knew, things I learned, and I started sharing some of my experience with freelancing. This helped bring in a little bit of traffic, but it got the attention of other well-established blogs. And this is when I had the opportunity to guest post for the next 6 months, every single week, about freelancing. And this is what skyrocketed my freelance business. It's what really brought in traffic. So I stuck with that for the next couple of years. I continued to write, continued to go outside my comfort zone, and I just showed up every single day. But the biggest thing was stepping outside of my comfort zone. I wasn't a writer. I thought I sucked at writing, but I did it anyway. And because of that, it's what's led to where I am today. So if you're considering the idea of starting a freelance business, my biggest piece of advice would have to be to just validate the idea. You might enjoy the thought of freelancing, but if you actually get a chance to work with a client one-on-one and you hate it, or if you don't like the idea of having to market your own business and to put yourself out there, then you're gonna struggle a lot and you're just not gonna enjoy it. But maybe you're already freelancing and you're just kind of struggling. You know, your income's going up and down, you know, client work is kind of sparse. So my advice to you is to do what I did. Take a step back, look at your business, and you need to pinpoint those hurdles that you need to jump. I break my freelance business down into 4 main principles: identity, focus, marketing, and process. You need to first figure out who you are and who you want to work with. You need to build a brand around that, which comes to the second thing, focus. which kind of ties into identity. You need to figure out what you're going to do specifically. You can't do everything to just scrape by. You need to figure out what you love to do. The 1 or 2 things that you can become great at, that your clients are like, this guy knows how to design a logo. I want to work with him. And the 3rd thing is marketing. How are clients going to know you even exist? Just by putting a portfolio online and letting it stagnate isn't going to do anything. You need to get your name out in front of the right people. And you need to bring people into your website. And you need to do that with marketing. So figure out how you can get your name out. And the 4th thing is process, which is very important. You need to know how you're going to work with clients from start to finish. You need to have some sort of structure in place for how you're going to operate as a freelancer. And these are all things I share on my blog, Your Freelance Career. And these are things we're going to dive into specifically here in these videos with you. So if you have any questions about graphic design, about how to run a freelance business, about my story or me, just leave a comment and I'll respond, or I'll even do a Q&A video series maybe. That's all I have for you. So I appreciate you taking the time to let me share my story with you. Hopefully you're able to pick up some insight from it. But I really want to thank you for watching. And just today, please do one thing that'll help you get to where you'd like to be one day. Just one thing. All right, thanks.
Zoom's moving around on me. I'm trying to unmute myself. All right, so what thing did he talk about that stood out to you the most in that?
Mainly his 4 I forgot what he called them now, but marketing is a big one. But you really need to figure out where your focus is going to be, what you're actually going to do, because you're not going to get the better jobs just doing everything.
Yep. If you specialize, then you end up moving up and up and up in your skill in that area, and up and up and up in the jobs you're getting.
Yeah, you start getting a specialty, and you will really start to pick up. And one thing that I've noticed, and I think I'm gonna kind of start going into more than I have, is working with 3D and working with 3D mock-ups. I have seen companies that have excellent designers, but 3D is such a newer thing that they are actually looking for somebody that can take their product, their labels or whatever, and put them into a 3D context that looks realistic. And they're actually looking for that.
Yeah.
And I have actually seen a couple of jobs, help wanted ads for jobs where that was all you did is 3D mock-ups.
Well, that's fun work too.
You know, yeah, it is. I love 3D stuff, so that helps too. So,
yeah, it's, you know, like you said, marketing is a huge thing, and deciding what you want to do, and that's kind of what we're doing with this target, you know, starting with anyway with this target audience, target market this week, you know, is narrowing down. So who do I want to focus on? And again, you'll have people come to you that are outside of that focus, and you know that's great, do it. But your focus needs to be for your own marketing, and that's one of the things that I like that this guy did is he talks a lot about building his brand. How he like a lot of times as designers, we forget to do we'll come up with a logo for ourselves, build a website for ourselves. But we really should be doing the entire branding process for ourselves that we would do for a client. You know, making sure that everything works together, is cohesive with our message, and is communicating to our customers or our potential clients, you know, who we are as a business, the way that we would do that for a client. Spending the time to think about what is my brand, and then designing the elements that are going to be seen by other people around that brand will really set you apart, and is what makes businesses work. That's why businesses hire designers in the first place, is because it's successful, it works. All right, so I've got one more video for today. This is a third guy named Roberto Blake, and he does a lot of different stuff. So we'll do this last one here, and then let's talk about that one afterward.
Hey everybody, this is graphic designer Roberto Blake, and in today's video I'm going to talk about how you become a freelance graphic designer. If you're just tuning into the channel for the first time, I usually do new graphic design videos every Monday, so make sure you're staying tuned and subscribe so you can get all of those. So what we're going to talk about today is the steps you need to take to become a freelance graphic designer. We're going to talk about what it actually takes to work as a freelancer and be successful at it. We're going to talk about the equipment and tools you need and the habits you need to develop to be a freelance graphic designer and how it differs from working for a company or working for an agency. So to get started, freelance graphic designers don't just work for one company or one client in most cases. They work for as many clients as they can take on. They usually acquire these clients themselves or through an affiliate network of some time or through representation, either through a headhunter, a talent scout, a recruiter, or some other type of scenario. Primarily, freelance graphic designers don't just get to do graphic design work because they're running their own business, whether it's full-time or as a side business. They have to actually go out and get their clients. I do a whole video on where you can find those in my Finding Graphic Design Jobs video. So if you want to go to specific websites aside from the ones in the description below, check out that video and it'll give you some more advice on how to find clients as a freelancer. But that is a very important thing, is to be a successful freelancer, since you don't have the consistency of somebody who works for a company or for an agency as a 9-to-5 job. You have to actually spend a lot of your time generating your own clients, your own leads in order to stay in business. This is why you have to have the right mentality if you're going to be a freelance graphic designer. Most freelance graphic designers have a part-time job or a full-time job, and freelancing is a side business, or it's something that brings them extra income or makes up half of their revenue. Most freelancers cannot use that to generate 80 to 90% of their income. My income majority, overwhelming majority, comes from my graphic design work, but I work as a graphic designer doing my own studio. I transitioned from just freelancing, and I'll explain that in a whole different video, but there's a big difference in terms of the business model and the way you go about it. But ultimately, the majority of my income still comes from freelance graphic design. It comes from other freelance ventures, whether that's photography and video, obviously passive income through my YouTube channel, and a few other products that I have out there. So that's part of the difference, is if you're going to be a freelancer and you want to be successful at it and make that 90% of your income or all of your income, then you're going to have to constantly be generating new clients, and you have to figure out how you're going to price to make that work. If you're only charging $200 per project, regardless of what type of project that is, then if you wanted to make a living off of that, you'd have to be getting 15 to 20 clients a month. But if you charge higher rates for your things, then maybe you don't need as many clients or as much consistent business in order to survive as a freelancer. For example, if you're doing $500 plus projects, then maybe you only need 5 or 6 clients a month. If you're doing $1,000, $2,000 projects, maybe you only need 2 or 3. It just depends. So you really need to think about what you're going to charge as a designer when you decide that you're going to be a freelancer, because it will affect how much time you're putting in and how many clients you need to be able to find in order to generate that income. So obviously, to get clients, you can do a lot of different things. You can either network locally, starting with family and friends, get referrals and do that, which is how most people do it, or you can use websites to find freelance gigs that people are posting, whether they be individuals or companies. You can also leverage social media. But one of the most important things to you being a freelancer is having a strong portfolio of work, having your own website set up so that you can generate leads, so you can point people to that website to view your work, have a portfolio that you can show in person, whether that's on your mobile device, your tablet, your laptop, whatever, or a print portfolio. And I have several videos that can help you with that. I have a whole video on how you can go about getting a freelance website developed. If you don't happen to be a web designer, it's still not a problem. You can use all kinds of different solutions. You can use Squarespace. You can even use Behance.net and showcase your work there, and just get a domain and a .com and point it to that, so that you're doing your own personal branding as far as having your own .com. So there's just a lot of different ways you can approach it, and I cover that in my web design portfolio video. So make sure you're checking that out if that's something that you feel you're weak in. The thing that most freelancers neglect is that there is a salesmanship component to being a freelancer, and that means closing, that means getting clients, that means convincing people of your value and to honor your prices and to value your work and to choose you over someone else. So you need to know how to properly market and promote yourself as a designer in order to attract new business. This might mean that you need to focus on a specific area of design and figure out what you do better than most people or what you're most comfortable doing. And oftentimes for a lot of people, that will be logo design, or it will be print design, or it'll be web, or maybe it'll be photo manipulation and key artwork. It's very difficult for people to do everything. I'm not a jack of all trades graphic designer, even though I do a lot of everything. It's mostly focused around advertising and brand development. So that's my specialty. It just happens to cover a broad range of skills and abilities, and that's kind of where I go with it and why I can offer so much. And it's because I have over a decade in experience in just about all of these different things because, well, I don't have much of a life. Most of the socializing, most of the things that I do when I go out still some way tie back to what I'm doing, usually either whether it's video or photography or talking about art. A lot of the events I go to are photography and art based. That's the community of people that I hang out with. And that actually works out very well for me because it means that I'm constantly in a position to market myself, promote my work because it's such a part of my personality and what I do. So, if that's not necessarily who you are, then it might be more challenging for you to find a way to work your everyday life into being a way to generate new clients and new leads. So you might have to dedicate some specific time to it if you're not always on. So going into some of the business aspects of freelancing, if you're going to be a freelance designer, then you need to set up your rate card. You don't necessarily have to give that on your website or give that to clients, but you need to know how much you're charging for things, and you need to figure that out. And again, I have a whole video on what you can charge as a graphic designer, so you might want to check that out. You also need to figure out whether you want to use general agreements or contracts. You can use a book called The Visual Artist Guide to Legal Advice. I have that link in the description below. There are all kinds of other resources you can use, LegalZoom, etc. Just make sure that you're taking the proper steps to protect yourself, and maybe you even want to consult a lawyer. A lot of people will do that for free, or you can go through your local small business association and you can get some help and advice on how to properly set up your business, set up your contracts, set up your general agreements, your usage rights, making sure that you protect yourself and that you can keep things in your portfolio after you're done with a client, etc. So just make sure you're taking those proper steps and you're doing the proper business practices for where you live. The other thing is you need to make sure that you're charging enough to be able to invest back into your business and cover your expenses. A lot of graphic designers take for granted that there is a cost associated with the way that they do business. You need to be able to get stock photos, new fonts, things like that every single year. You're going to have to get those things in order to conduct your business. So you need to figure out how much a month on average you're spending on those, how much a project you're spending on those. You need to work that into your billing model and your fees, and also how much money you're holding and saving back for expenses. You need to have a fund so that you can replace your computer if you absolutely need to. If you're using Adobe Creative Cloud, you need to make sure that you have the money for your subscription set aside every single month out of what you're doing. A lot of people are against taking out lines of credit, but I think that can be very helpful if you're just getting started as a graphic designer to offset some of your expenses, as long as you have a plan for make sure you pay it down, things like that, don't get in over your head. But this is an investment. Doing a business is an investment. There's a cost associated with it. So don't hesitate. If not having the money to do something up front means you would miss an opportunity, then you need to overcome that fear and just go ahead and invest in your ability to be successful. So that's just my personal advice. I will probably do another video specifically about that and how to invest in yourself as a creative professional. So that'll come later, because I think it's important to understand that, doing even this YouTube channel, I had to spend over $1,000 in the equipment that I used to produce all these videos, and that paid itself back, return on investment, multiple times over. I can't tell you by how much, more than 10 times over in the time since I got it. So it was a good idea, and you know what? I used my Amazon credit card to do a lot of it, and I've never regretted the decision. So just kind of keep that in mind. So some of the tools I think you absolutely need as a freelance graphic designer is you need some kind of software to do your time tracking and your productivity. You need some kind of task manager software. I highly recommend using something like Evernote or Microsoft OneNote to keep yourself organized. Being organized is essential to being a freelancer. I can't stress that enough. You know, you really need to be able to keep track of your clients, your to-do list, your due dates, your invoicing. You need to make sure you have a good invoicing system. You might want to use software for that unless you can do the manual accounting yourself. You might even want to consider taking on an accountant if you think you can afford that or you're doing a high enough level of business. So, you know, these are just some things that you really should keep in mind. In terms of general tools of the trade, I've already done a graphic design video on tools. Obviously, I recommend using a Wacom tablet. You're probably going to need a laptop and a desktop computer. You are going to need a good printer. You don't have to get a Mac. A lot of graphic designers think that you have to get a Mac in order to do graphic design. If you're using the Adobe programs or even the Corel suite, there's absolutely no quantifiable difference between using a Mac and a PC. I constantly talk about this. It's a matter of preference. It's a matter of what you're comfortable with and what you can afford. There are some things on the hardware side, but you know what? You'll be just fine with a good Asus laptop. Dell is doing some great things again. I know there were some issues in the past, but they're back, and you know, Michael Dell got involved and they're putting out quality products again. So if you want an all-in-one computer that's comparable to an iMac, maybe you get a Dell. For laptops, again, I highly recommend Asus. HP and Epson do great printers. If you're doing more photography, maybe you want a Canon printer to go along with your Canon video cameras or your DSLR photography. I use Nikon equipment myself personally, but I've used Canon in the past before. I think they're both great. So, you know, just use your own judgment there and maybe go into the, you know, camera system that most of your friends have so that you can borrow lenses and batteries and equipment and things like that. But, you know, a camera would probably be very good for you to invest in as a freelance graphic designer or web designer, because when you do print work or when you do branding stuff, or even when you want to promote or advertise yourself, having good quality photos to be able to tell your story and market yourself can be extremely useful and can engage clients. If you're going to advertise on Facebook and Craigslist, or even Twitter or any other social media, photos do a better job of selling you than anything else. So you can have all the best written copy in the world that you want, but a photo is usually going to sell it a lot easier. So make sure you're doing that. So some final thoughts on being a freelance graphic designer. One of the things is you have to absolutely manage your time effectively, because you aren't in a 9-to-5 environment. You don't have a supervisor, you don't have coworkers, you aren't answerable to anyone but your clients, but that means that you have to manage your time effectively. You have to stay on top of your deadlines. You have to stay in constant communication with your clients. When a project is active, I probably touch base with a client every day or every other day, sometimes multiple times a day if that's what's needed, whether that be phone or email. When you want to do work with clients and they want changes or revisions, make sure they absolutely put everything in email so that you have it in writing, you have documentation, you can always go back to them with, you know, what you guys spoke about. If you're working with a group of clients, if it's a team or a company, try using something like freeconferencecall.com so that everybody can get on the conference call. There's also a playback feature so that you can dial in and you can hear everything that was said, get it exactly written down, and you know, it's documented, it's recording, so you know exactly what was said and what was stated, so there's no confusion, it's clear, and you can go back to them later if there's a problem. You know, one of the most important things in being a freelancer, or probably the most absolute and most important thing in being a graphic designer, is having good, strong communication and building strong relationships with your clients. They're going to be what makes or breaks you. They're going to refer you to other people. They're going to give you testimonials you can use on your website or in LinkedIn. So you need to make sure you're strengthening the relationship with them. They might do repeat business with you. Again, they might bring other people to you. So that's absolutely important. It's not enough just to do good work, but it's important to be recognized in doing that good work and for other people to advocate and promote the good work that you do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot more about what it means and what it takes to be a freelance graphic designer. If I didn't answer all of your questions, be sure to leave that in the comment section below. I'll either answer you directly or I'll do a follow-up video to this with more information and tips on being a freelancer. Maybe I'll even make this a regular series. Anyway, like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with friends. Check out the other great content on the channel. As always, you guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget, create something awesome today.
All right. So what stood out to you, the stuff that Roberto was talking about?
Boy, he covered a lot of information in that one. I've seen that video before, actually.
Oh, have you? Oh,
the last two, I had this one and the one before that, actually, I've seen. One thing that he mentioned that I really stood out to me, and it is really important, is you're not going to be able to get work if you can't show what you can do.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have a good portfolio, you're not going to get work.
Yep.
You know, honestly, you have to prove to them that you can do it.
Mm-hmm. As I always tell my students, that it's there in this industry, your degree is what gets you the interview, and your portfolio is what gets you the job.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And you know, when he was talking about, one of the things that I really like, you have to spend time getting clients, and then you need to build relationships with those clients. You know, that's in the beginning, you spend a lot more time looking for new clients. But if you can, if you do a good job and you build a relationship with those clients where they enjoy working with you, then what happens is pretty soon you start getting repeat business and you start getting referrals. And repeat business and referrals are just, they're everything in the business, like when you're running your own business, because that takes so much of that time requirement that you had of going out and finding this work on your own. So those relationships are just everything. And you know, like, I can tell you from my, so this is kind of off from graphic design, but it's a good example of it. You know, he was talking about pricing, into different ways to look at your pricing, and then also with relationships. You know, I told you in last on Tuesday that I also run a Mac consulting business, right? Because I used to work for Apple and I do consulting still. And I had no intention of that being a thing, really. I had left Apple, and I had a couple of people that I'd done some things for at Apple say, "Oh, well, since you're not there anymore, could I pay you to come out to our office and do that, or could I pay you to come out to our house?" And I, at the time, was worried that it was going to take up too much of my time, and so I wanted to be focusing more on the design stuff, and I'd started teaching here, and so I set my price really high. I set my price. It's not the highest. There are higher, but like, you know, a lot of people that do that kind of thing, it's about $50 an hour. And I just decided, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be really worth my time. I want to look forward to these clients. And so I told people, yeah, I can do it, but I charge $150 an hour. And I thought that was going to really severely limit me. But what I found out was that there are a lot of people that were willing to pay that. They were willing to pay it because of the relationship, because the thing I hear most from my clients is, you're the only person that's ever come out to talk to me about my computers that I understand, you know, that I feel like that you're just a normal person to talk normally, and I can get what you're talking about. And so I've built up these client, these client relationships where they think of me like a friend. I think of them like friends, and they just kept having me come back. They referred more people to me. And now that business, you know, I don't spend anywhere near the majority of my time doing that business, but I actually get a pretty good chunk of income from that business, because of the fact that in that particular one, I went for the high price and smaller market. And that's really, you know, if you're really inexpensive, there's a lot more people that will pay you. And if you're expensive, there's a lot less people to pay you. But if you know, and you have to decide for yourself, or, you know, in your area, what market is going to be the best for you. Like, you know, another example would be, you know, McDonald's makes a couple of cents on every burger they sell, but they sell so many of them that doesn't matter. They make plenty of money doing that. But you've got other companies that have enormous markups, and they only need to sell a few things in order to make a lot of money too. So you kind of have to find what works best for you. Is it doing a lot of work and you know, hitting that mass market, or is it, you know, specializing and charging a bit more for what you do, but then having less of it? and both are viable solutions. And then one other thing I wanted to just touch base on in there, he talked about, and we're going to talk a lot more about this when we get into doing your budgets and stuff, but you talked about our expenses. A lot of people overlook in the beginning that we do have expenses. There are things that we have to pay for, the equipment we're working on, software, stuff like that. But one in particular he touched on that I wanted to mention is stock photography. And if you're doing a website and you're using stock photography for that, there are a couple of ways to do that. One, you can have them provide their own. You can see if they want to hire a photographer, if it's a really simple thing. But I just wanted the company that I used to work for and did this when I worked for Skogan Group. I talked about them on Tuesday as well. And I still do this, and that is when a client wants stock photography, and I'm the one finding that stock photography, part of my contract with them is that they pay for that photography, and I actually have a markup. My markup is only 10%, but Skogan, they actually marked up 30%. So they'd go out and find the photos, and then they'd add a 30% markup on that, and they would sell, and they would charge the client for that. So that way the client was paying for the time, too, to find the photos, but they were basically acting like a reseller of those photos. And then rather than photos being a drain on you because you're paying this money for these stock photos, they actually end up being something that gives you more income because of the fact that that's being passed on to your client. So just something to think about that he mentioned in there.
Yeah, I have, speaking of relationships with clients, I work for a design firm, or I freelance for a design firm in Detroit. Their only client, they only have one client, is, and I kind of spoke roughly on this before, their only client is the federal government, specifically the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a lot of manuals, and they even do presentations that some of their presentations have been shown on TV and at the White House.
Oh, nice.
And they have their own designers also.
Mm-hmm.
And they called me one time, and with the job.
Yeah.
And I asked them, I said, well, I don't want to seem crazy or anything, but you have graphic designers,
Mm-hmm.
And they said, yeah, but first, they're not as good as you are in doing this specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we know you'll get it done on time.
Yeah. A lot of that freelance work, the people that hired us when I worked at Skogan, we got work from Microsoft, Philips Technology, I mentioned Nginx. They all have teams of graphic designers. But yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. When these special projects come up, it's very common for them to look for freelancers because they want people who have special skills that work well with the project they're doing. They know that their team is already busy doing the stuff that they always do, and so this project needs to be done. That means they need someone else to work on it. Yeah.
It was surprising because when I first started with them, I had my own contract written up that I had basically written up myself.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to me after I worked for them a couple times. They came to me and they're like, this contract, we realized it's actually a pretty good contract for, you rating it up yourself, but do you mind if we have our lawyers spice it up a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
And their lawyer actually, and it was for free, spiced up my contract and gave me the okay to use it for anybody.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That kind of surprised me. I'm like, wow, cool, thanks.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, let's take a look at your mood board. There's one activity we were going to do, but I don't want to run out of time for looking at your mood board. So let's look at that first, and then we'll see what time we have left. If we're going to look at this last thing. So let me go. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and why don't you go ahead and just share yours.
This is what I have so far.
Oh, nice. I like the layout. All right. So,
I have 3 more photos to put in there yet, but
okay. Got the blues, the modern, simple. Technology is human innovation in action. Nice. Yeah, and I see what, when you were talking about your thoughts you'd had on target market, you were talking about technology companies. Have you expanded? I mean, like, what are you still feeling that same way as far as target market?
generally, yeah.
Yeah, it looks that way to me. It looks like it'd be a good one for that sort of thing. It also worked well for education, honestly. A lot of education materials skew that direction too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like the asymmetrical grid. That's nice.
Yeah, that's actually a template.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, very cool.
What do you think of this here?
I think that it's the first thing that jumped to my eye, and it's because it's different than the rest of them. At the same time, it is, it doesn't need, like, different isn't necessarily bad if different is stating a quality that isn't stated by the other things. You know what I mean? And so, elegant, if you're, when you're saying that is an aspect of your design, then I think that's a good representation of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I kind of put it up here because it was different than the stuff down here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of trying to show different sides, instead of trying to put this in with everything else, trying to kind of show different sides and have them kind of separated a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to get some photos, like especially here and here, that kind of bring them together a little bit.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, and I like the fonts you used. Oh, that's, yeah, I think it looks great. I'm excited to see what other pictures you end up adding in there.
Yeah, me too. Just now comes the fun part. Now I got to start kind of bridging them together.
Yeah, right. So let's actually then go ahead and unshare yours. I'm going to share mine one more time. And we're going to do, I have written down here 15 minutes, but we're not going to do 15 minutes on it. We don't have that much left. So let's just do 5 minutes. What I'm going to do, again, this is moving towards what you're doing for your work this week. Let's take 5 minutes real quick, and I want you to just research your area, and based upon your mood board and the thoughts you have for target audience, I want you to come up with 2 potential customers that you think would be good people for you to, reach out to. And I also want you to come up with 2 competitors, because then we're going to be talking more about that in future weeks. 2 people who would also be reaching out for that same type of work that you're reaching out for, same market that you're reaching out for. Okay. So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and you look into those. And if you get done before then, just let me know.
Okay.
I'll just set that. All right. So what did you find?
Well, actually, I ended up in a conversation with a web company.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, I went to their webpage and it's beautiful. It's called Blue Winds Media, and the guy chimed in with the chat thing, and we started chatting for a minute.
Oh,
I'm like,
nice.
I got to go. I only have 5 minutes to do this, and he's like, okay, got it. Talk to you later. But he did get my my email. So,
Nice. Very nice.
and I also found Web Design by Jake and Detroit Web Design Agency.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
the best I seen out of them three was Blue Winds. They had some excellent technical website
Nice.
sites in their on their site. You know, they had like portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and they had some beautiful sites.
Nice. Yeah, hang on to those because we're gonna use them in a future week. We're gonna be looking when we're looking at our market, in our market being like other people that are not only the clients we have but also competitors, and we're gonna be doing a SWOT analysis when we get to that. So
Geez, I can't spell with crap. I also found for potential clients. Now I'm not sure on this one. I didn't look to see if they had a website.
mhm.
But it's called Beyond Tomorrow's Tech, and it is a cable company,
Oh yeah, nice.
which is weird because here we have Comcast, and it's like Comcast has pretty much got their butt planted right in the whole market. Then I also looked at Spend Tech Machine. They're a manufacturer, and AECOM. They're an engineering consultant firm.
Oh, those are some good ones.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Yeah, hang on to those. Like keep them because we're going to be working those into assignments that we're going to be and discussions we're going to have later on in the mod too.
It kind of surprised me how many web design companies are actually in Michigan.
Yeah. It's a lot of it's like you're talking about. A lot of people don't know much about graphic design, so until you look, a lot of times you don't realize just how much is going on around you, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, that's everything that I have to go over for today. Then, you have any questions for me before we call it a day?
Yeah. On our papers we have to write today,
Mhm.
which are like way too many words. Um, do they have to be APA? I mean, I know the references and the citations do.
They don't have to be APA, not like strictly APA. No, I'm
Okay.
reading just more on that they look professional and the content.
Okay. More. Because they are going into the final
The final business
plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So more because I notice both of them actually, the assessment and the assignment, are both broken up into two chunks. So
Mm-hmm.
mainly just have it set so we can take them chunks and put them into the business plan, like a heading, underlined heading, and then the words, and then that type of deal, right?
Yeah. Now, your business, when we do the business plan, you're actually going to design the business plan too. So you might change some of that formatting at the time. But yeah, as far as it being, I'm not, as far as APA, you don't need to worry about that. Format it just so it looks professional, and yeah, make sure to cite your resources.
Yeah. And should we cite our resources with each section?
No, you can just do it all at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, just have a reference page at the end there.
That, yeah, because technically when you do the business plan, all citations are going to be at the end anyway, so they don't have to go through all that crap unless they really want to start digging into what you said. But
exactly.
a lot of times they just see that, oh, okay, it's referenced, so he's doing his homework.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool deal.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thanks again for coming and joining me. I definitely appreciate having you here. And
Not a problem.
Just for everyone watching the recording, again, make sure you get everything in by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. And other than that, I'll be doing all the grading on Monday, so you should be able to look at your grades as of the end of the day on Monday. And I will just look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Yep, you too.
Bye.